hopefully I don't put you to sleep and I entertain you. This is meant to be a conversational type of class. So if you have any thoughts or comments, please share them because that will help me make it a little more exciting. And maybe we'll break up for a bit and then you can discuss some of the ideas I'm talking about and then come up with something that you want to share. Okay, so I try and tie it to either money or dating or something that's interesting to everybody that's here. But sometimes, somehow, Torah slips in and so whatever, that might happen. Okay, so, but it's all Torah. We're studying Pirkei Avot, and we're in the 3rd chapter, if that means anything to you. But we've done a lot. It's been an entire year since we started doing this weekly Pirkei Avot whilst we're at Taco Tuesday. And basically my goal is to take some of the statements that are written in Pirkei Avot and make them understood and relatable to anyone that's here or anyone that would walk in the room, and something that you could take with you. So actually I had an experience and I thought I'll tie that in this week. I always have something happening. So, in California, if you don't use your car for 2-3 months, the washer fluid goes dry. And that's what happened to our car, the small one that we don't use so much. And before Shabbat, I went to synagogue with the small one, and parked it somewhere on the street. Doesn't really bother me as long as I know I'm not going to get a ticket. And then on the way back, I realized after Shabbat, I can't see through the window. It's crazy. The whole thing is full of dust. I'm trying to get some washer fluids not coming out. So I said, okay, I'm going to go here to Smart Finals, see if there's something there. And there's a car store, an auto... O'Reilly, that's it. So one of the chain stores for cars, which are not always so cheap. So I walked in there and I looked for washer fluid. And as I'm looking at washer fluid, it doesn't say in it washer fluid, which is weird, but it just talks about the fact that it removes bugs. So it's like a bug killer washer fluid. So I'm like, okay, I'll buy that. And I'm asking the guy, this is washer fluid? It says it kills bugs, and I just see bugs on the picture here. Is this really washer fluid? Yes, it's washer fluid. And there's a guy that's buying stuff also in the store at the same time. And he's asking questions also to, it's late at night, and the guy that's buying something else was also asking questions. And he was asking about his oil that he's changing in his car, and he's looking at different types, and he's asking what color is it, and all different questions. And as I'm about to pay for my washer fluid, this guy walks out of the store without paying after asking a lot of questions with like 5 or 6 bottles of he wanted to make sure he got the right one. So the guy said, yeah, that's the one that you need. And after he confirmed that's the one he needs, he just casually walks out the store and without paying anything. So I'm standing there and I'm like, is this really happening? So I've seen a robbery, not as close up. I was once on La Brea, Melrose area, and all of a sudden, about 5 guys are just running out of store with tons of stuff, and there's a car waiting for them. So that was obviously a robbery. No, but I also saw like store owners, like 1 or 2, the people that were working at the store, cashiers, they were running after them, trying to get them. So it was definitely a robbery. But this robbery I saw in my own face, and it was right there in my face. So I was actually a little shaken from it afterwards, and I'm not sure about anyone here. Anyone here seen a robbery like straight up in a store? So.
TV just someone run out with a TV.
Oh, you saw someone run out TV? What did he say? He did a robbery? Or what did he? No. So. Yes, it's not very kosher. It didn't make me feel good. It made me not feel good. And after I left, I was like, oh, maybe I should have paid for it. I don't know. So I didn't feel good with it, but then I got through a lot of thoughts. And I was saying to myself, okay, most people will tell me it's a chain store, it's O'Reilly, or whatever it's called. Who cares? If one guy comes in and takes 3 or 4 bottles But there's a problem with that. Why is that not so simple? Why is it really a problem? Obviously, the fact that someone stole, yes, and the fact that it's a chain store, so they don't feel the loss, probably, right? But why is it still painful?
Because the fact that we live in a society that thinks this is okay is startling.
It's becoming the norm. Our society's thinking it's okay.
So the next thing you know, it'd be your brother, it'd be your sister, it'd be...
Right? It could have been you. It could be you.
Yeah. It's not the world you want to live in.
And it's not sustainable if everyone has that mentality, and even if it's a corporation, eventually
It will have to close.
yeah.
Good point. It says that before the great flood, right? Remember that? Right, everyone used to take a small amount. They used to say, oh, what's the big deal? This guy is selling so much. I'll take a small amount. No one's going to say anything. And the other guy said, I'll take a small amount. I'll take a small amount, until it was a point where no one could open a store and no one could sell anything. Because everyone said, what's the big deal? This, by the way, teaches me a tremendous lesson when we step boundaries with things that are on the fence of not being so good. So we say to ourselves, okay, what's the big deal? We say to ourselves, what's the big deal? I'm stepping a boundary, What's the big deal? But the truth is that if I step the boundary and someone else does and everyone does, eventually the whole thing crumbles. Society crumbles as a whole. And that's a real issue. That's a real problem. There's another problem, which is kind of what you touched on, that it's contagious. Good is contagious and bad is contagious. And when we see, it says in Pirkei Avot, it's one of the things we will be learning, that mitzvah goreret mitzvah and avera goreret avera. When I do good, it causes an influence to do more good, whether it's for me or for the people around me. And when I do bad, it causes an environment for more bad to happen. So when that guy stole, it's true that he stole and it might not be such a great loss for the store, but it's a loss for society as a whole because it comes normal. Ah, look, it can happen. We can do it. No one's going to do anything. Well, they're going to call the police and the police are going to come. What's he going to, till they come? They're so busy with so much crime anyway. They're not going to come for this. And slowly but surely, if everyone does that, it's true. The police will never be able to enforce such a thing. So bad is something that's contagious. Anyone else? Any other reasons why you think that this is terrible? Obviously, because stealing.
That's why it was happening.
Okay, without getting into politics, that's definitely not my point. But whether politics is involved or not, it's up to each individual also to make sure that we as a whole are not involved in those things, right? That's definitely true as well, as an individual, as well as our shoftim v'shotrim. Actually, this Torah portion is called shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha, that we have a requirement to have a law enforcement. You have to have shoftim, which are judges, and shotrim are law enforcement officers, basically police, that make sure that the court system is being enforced. So basically there's laws, and then people enforcing the laws. Every single society has to have that. That's one of the Shiva Mitzvot. B'nai Noach, it's one of the 7 laws for non-Jews also. And we should actually, as Jews, we are required to tell people to keep those mitzvot. So if somebody comes up to me and says, hey, I'm into Jesus and Christianity, or I'm into this religion or that religion, we'll say to them, dude, have you ever heard of the 7 laws? And they'll be like, no, I haven't. Or maybe they'll say, yes, I have. There's actually a huge movement online of the Noahide, a group of people, a huge movement of people that are keeping the 7 Noahide laws alone, and they stick to them, and that's their religion. And we understand as Jews that even non-Jews that stick to the 7 Noahide laws, they get a portion in heaven. They are considered special, and they get close to God as well just by keeping those 7 Noahide laws as well, which is unique as a religion. Judaism is unique in the way that we say that not only Jews, but even non-Jews can get a portion in heaven. Okay, so this is one of the things that I want to touch on, which is connected to theft. but also in life as well, in general. Another reason why someone will feel the need to steal, obviously besides for feeling like I don't have the ability to pay for it, is a lack of internal gratitude. If I am not happy, I don't have an internal gratitude. It's to do with my education at home. If I have a certain sense of internal gratitude, even if I have a tiny amount, I'll be able to overcome a temptation to steal. No one's watching, who cares? I need it. I will be able to overcome that temptation if I have an inner sense of gratitude. There are stories of Jews, rabbis throughout history that suffered tremendous amounts with tremendous poverty. They wouldn't know what they're going to eat the next day, but they never would resort to theft. So that's something to think about. And how did they get to that? The answer is here in what we're going to talk about today, which is an internal sense of gratitude. And how do we get that? And by the way, this is a policy that's good for all aspects of life. This is the statement of this great Rabbi Elazar Ish Bar Tuta. His name was Rabbi Elazar. He was a man of Bar Tuta as a place. And he used to say like this. He was a very wealthy man himself and a tremendous giver himself. He was a giver. And he used to say like this. Ten lo mishelo. Give him, who's him? God. Give God, mishelo, what belongs to him. What belongs to him? If there's a creator of the universe, what belongs to the creator? Everything. Give God what belongs to him. Because you and what you have both belong to him. Okay? So the question is, what does this really mean? And it gives me an example to really understand what this means. Give God yourself and what you have, because at the end of the day, it belongs to him anyway. It's not yours. Okay, and how does that help my life? That's the question also. So it says like this. The next statement is, look at David. V'chen beDavid. Look at David, the one that wrote Psalms, a person of gratitude. His whole book was thank you. And what did he say? He said, Ki mimcha hakol, everything is from you. And from your hands, everything was given. What was the story of David? He did the greatest campaign of building in history. What building was it? The temple. David was the one that was appointed to build the temple, which he didn't actually get to be in because he died. His son, Solomon, got to be in the temple, but he didn't actually get to see it. He was the one that was on the campaign to build it. And he was entrusted with what we would call today billions of dollars, a lot of money. And people gave him money. And what did he do? He said, it's not mine. He's the perfect example of someone that was given money and was then not the person that took it to himself. You know, there's a statement, there's a famous joke that they say, a rabbi who said, you know, you give money to one organization, and that organization is planning to do, I don't know, a children's hospital, open a children's hospital. But there are many managers over the organization. And suddenly, less and less, by the time the money actually gets to the hospital, there's much less than what you gave originally. What's going on? So, as a joke, a rabbi said, you know how it works? I'll tell you how it works. He gives a piece of ice to one person. He says, pass it to the person. Pass it around the table until it gets to the person at the end. So he gives it to him. By the time he gets to the person at the end, it's all melted. He says, that's what happens. When you have so many people involved in an organization, you give one person the money, that person's involved in the organization, some of it melts. You give it to the next person, he's involved in the organization, some of it melts, until the actual cause doesn't even get all that money that you fundraised for, okay, that you gave. So obviously that's corruption, right? That's not good. So David HaMelech had the ability to take hold. How do you have someone who's trusted with so much money and doesn't feel the need to take it for himself? How do you have such a person? The answer is because he believed deeply that all the money that he had or he was entrusted with is God's in the first place. And he himself is part of God. It's not him. Everything he does is for Hashem. And therefore he was able to let go, even though he was entrusted with so much himself. Make sense? Okay. So this actually answers something very interesting. What is the definition of the word tzedakah? Righteousness. Right? What do we normally translate it as? Right? Tzaddik is a righteous person. What do we normally charity. We don't, but the root of the word tzedakah is actually justice or righteousness. How come? It's charity. Why is giving charity an act of righteousness or justice? It should be charity. Why is it? Do you get the question? The root of the word is righteousness and justice. Why? And the answer is from here. Yes?
Self-justice. Oh, I learned this week.
Oh, really? Go. Tell me.
Sorry. Yes, so tzedakah means like self-justice, and then charity is more of like a voluntary. So because tzedakah is...
That's gemilut chasadim.
Tzedakah is really, is not voluntary. It's like something that we must do, meaning it's really all Hashem's money to begin with.
Exactly.
But it's from Parsha Re'eh.
No, it's from this Pirkei Avot.
And
So,
Pirkei
oh
Avot.
yeah, it is last week's portion.
Yeah.
You're right. Yes.
That's
Hanek
why I
Tanik
was-
loves the mitzvah of giving stuff. Listen to this. If somebody gave you money, someone gave you $100 and said, "Listen, there's a guy near you, your neighbor, and he needs some money. Please take the $100 and give it to your neighbor. I know he needs the money. It's charity for him. Tell him it's a gift from someone anonymous. Here's the $100. I know your neighbor needs the money. Take the money and give it to him." When you take that cash, the $100, and you go and give it to that neighbor, are you feeling in any way that you should have kept the money to yourself? No. What's the right thing to do?
Give the money.
Give the money. The just thing to do is to be the messenger, because that's what you were asked to do. It's not your money. You were just the one that's holding it. So you take the cash and you give it to that person. Did you feel like in any way you lost out, that you should have had it? No, the right thing to do is to give it to that person. So that's exactly how it should be with us also. We are given a certain amount of money in our life, and we're told that if we give a certain amount of it, which is 10% at least, up to 20% maximum, so then what we're doing is we're actually giving money which isn't mine anyway. That's the approach that a person needs to have. Ten lo mishelo. All my talents, how I made that money in the first place was a miracle. How I was able to work that day was a miracle, and it's not mine. That is the ultimate way of being. Why is it important? Why do you think? And I'm going to give you a few minutes to discuss this, because I know that even me, I don't know, I can't sit in the classroom for more than 20 minutes. So I give you a few minutes to think, why is it so important to think this way? And how does this translate outside of money also? Give him what's his, because what you have and what you are is his anyway. Okay? So I'll give you a few minutes to discuss, maybe come up with an idea of, here's the question. The question is, okay? The question is, how does this translate and how is this beneficial to us in our life? Think about dating. Think about having kids. My kids are God's and I am God. Okay? Yes. I'm good. Okay, anyone got some nice thoughts to share? Anyone? 1, 2, 3. Hashem. Okay. Should we continue?
Who has ideas?
Eitan, for sure. There is a great, you want to share something? Please, please.
I thought you were asking everyone.
I am asking. I'm asking everyone, what was the question? How is it good? How is it a good way of living to say that what's mine and who I am belongs to God? Why is that a good way of living? How is that going to help you with your kids? How is that going to help you with your dating? How is that going to help you with your business?
I suppose like when you have something and you know that it's yours, you may not take care of it as well. But if you know it's somebody else's, then you'll like take care of it even more. Like, let's say someone lets me borrow their car. I'm going to be extra careful. I'm going to drive,
Yes.
very slowly, only the speed limit and such.
That is a great point.
I'm liable for the things that that aren't mine.
Yeah. What happens if you feel that you own your children? Right? Please God, one day.
Oh,
Unless that's something I don't know
I've
about.
experienced that for you put them to work.
You put them to work. They're like your slaves. Right? That's how far it can go. But if you say to yourself, these are a deposit from God. I'm here for a limited time, and my children are given to me as a gift. Right? It says that the shalosh shutafim ba'adam. There's 3 partners in creating a human being. Me, and God, and my wife. Right? So we are 3 partners in creating a child. Every single person is Ish, Isha, Hashem. That's why, by the way, Adam adds up to 45. You've got Aleph, which is God, the Neshama part, and Dam, which makes up of 44, which is the same gematria as Av and Em. Av is 3, Em is 41, 44. They make the Dam, the blood, the physical part of you, the genetics, and God obviously is behind the whole thing, which puts everything together. Okay, so the idea is that you don't own the things you have, and that way you'll respect them a little more. Okay, it's a great point. Nailed it. Anyone else? Any other thoughts?
What was that? I forgot with the system.
What was the question? Okay. There is a great story of a rabbi. I've said it in the past in my happiness talks. A great rabbi at the end of his life, he was in a wheelchair and he couldn't walk. And they came up to him and they asked him, how, Rabbi, are you so happy? How are you so happy? You're unable to walk. Everyone needs to dress you, take you to the bathroom. This is life. This is what life is all about. So difficult. And he said to his students, imagine if somebody at the beginning of your life gives you $1 billion. And towards the end of your life, after enjoying the $1 billion for your entire life, no work, if that's called enjoyable, it's probably not. But let's say you had $1 billion, you did whatever you want your entire life. And you've still got more. And the person that gave you the money says to you, hey, can you give me $100,000 back? $200,000 back. $1 million back.
There you go.
Would it be hard to give it back?
No.
Well, depends if you have spent it or not. Right? Depends how much you've got left. But if you had the money left, the guy gave you everything. It's his money.
You invested it in $200,000 versus $1 billion.
Yeah.
$1 million. Now, if you ask for $1 billion back, you're like,
But
Well, that's the $1 billion back.
My friends, this rabbi said, my entire life I've been given billions and billions. Well, not $1 billion, a lot of money in terms of life. It's worth everything. I've been given health. I've been given a family. I've been everything. I became a leader of a big community. Look what happened to my life. So the end of my life, the last 10 years, God said, in order for you to be in this world and to fill your purpose, the last 10 years needs to be without being able to walk. But, okay, so take my legs. It's such a different approach. I mean, that's a tremendous level, right? Somebody who's filled with gratitude and is able to look at his challenge and say, I got so much in my life, some of it's got taken back. That's why gratitude is such an important aspect in terms of my happiness. Okay? Anyone else? Any other ideas of why it's important to have a mindset that says what's mine is God's and the money is God's also? I am God. Why is that important?
what are you thinking?
I was just gonna say, like, money is like such a physical thing. It's like the thing that runs this physical world. So that's like the key of getting so like stuck on this like physical mindset. But keeping in mind that there's something beyond money and there's something beyond this like just collective much physical as we can is important to like focus on what really matters.
Good. Somebody who feels like it's all mine can't let go.
Yeah.
Right? Is that kind of what you're saying? It's like they're overly attached to their money and their physicality. But when you start realizing that this is all a gift, it's all from God, there's much more to life than this, then you're able to detach also. When you lose it, you're able to detach. It's an amazing ability.
I'm kind of thinking of this as like the giving and receiving mentality of like, in reality, we're just receiving like all these gifts and like, it's just being able to like experience that receiving fully and be like, oh yeah, I do have my eyesight, oh yeah, like, and receiving it like gratefully versus just taking whatever is ours, but no, these are all just gifts. I was just learning the difference between receiving and taking.
Yes, yes,
Like, they're not quite the same,
yes.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, feeling entitled is a
Right,
form
exactly.
of taking and receiving. Right.
Receiving is a positive way of like, someone has invited you to an event or something, whereas taking is just like.
A negative form.
Is a negative form of saying, I claimed that, but no one actually gave it to you, so why are you taking something that wasn't
Right.
yours to begin with?
Right. Very important point. Taking versus receiving, two different things. It says, Soneh matanot yichyeh. Somebody who hates gifts will have a good life. But is that true?
What?
Soneh matanot, Shlomo HaMelech, the wisest of all. Soneh matanot yichyeh. Somebody who hates gifts, he can live long. Why? Is that true?
I don't know, I don't think so.
Depends why. It depends when. Exactly. Soneh matanot yichyeh is somebody who feels that he needs to be given the gifts. Right? He's driven by gifts. So that person can live. But if someone comes up to you and says, hey, please, I want to give you a gift. I'm so grateful to you. Like my child, let's say, writes me a note, draws a beautiful picture, at least in their eyes. It's beautiful. And then they write, I love you, Abba, all over it. And Ima, and they write this great note. I have to show it to you. It's every once in a while in our bedroom, we go to bed with these notes. They're fantastic. So, you look at this note and you're like, imagine I would say, hey, kid, I don't want it. Take it back. Right? Would that be bad? Of course. Taking sometimes could be a very good thing. So if someone offers you something out of gratitude, so that's receiving. That's receiving. Soneh matanot yichyeh, somebody who's dreaming of taking, that person can't live, doesn't have a good life. Because all day, I want, you want, you'll never stop wanting. I need to take this, I need to take that, you'll never stop wanting. Exactly. Anyway, so the idea here is that a person also in dating as well, you can tell if somebody feels entitled and feels like everything is earned and owed and it's mine and I deserved. It doesn't work.
Welcome to LA, Rabbi.
Well, we're trying to change it. There's not that many people in this room, but we start here and you know what? Well, I'll tell you a secret. It's contagious. It's contagious. I'll tell you this. When I was standing in that store, and they saw a Jew paying for his stuff, and there's another guy running off stealing, that has an impact. I'm walking with a big kippah and a jacket and a suit, and I'm buying my stuff. It's contagious. You do an act of good, it's contagious. And I was saying to myself, this isn't going to happen for long because this community is growing here in this area. The Jewish community is expanding big time.
Is the entitlement's more contagious than the good deed?
Well, if you look at history, you're underestimating the power of the people that do good.
I just talking statistics.
Okay? Statistics is that when good wins and evil fails. Well, I'll tell you a secret. Look at statistics. The fact of history. Good wins and evil fails eventually. It might explode and be strong at the beginning. Right? We say this every Shabbat, by the way. Kifruach, it says like they grow like weed. Kemo esev. Bifruach reshaim kemo esev. The evil, they grow like weeds, like grass. Excuse me. So they grow like weeds. What does weed do? It doesn't have strong roots, but it goes everywhere. Have you ever planted mint in your yard? Right, it's a good example.
Get rid of it.
I'm not going to talk about other stuff.
You plant mint, you always have mint.
You always have mint, but it grows quick. But also it dries up or can die quick as well. So don't be how would you say it? Disencouraged. Is that the right way? Right? Discouraged. Don't be discouraged by the success of evil. That's what we sing on Shabbat. Because good is silent, but it wins. Because good has to be silent. It's humble. But it will win eventually. And history has proven it. History has proven the Nazis are gone, the Babylonians that did evil have gone, the Romans that did evil have gone, and so on and so forth. The Crusaders have gone, and and the Jews are still here. Okay, so I'm just the good ones. Okay, so we hope. Okay. So a bit about Rabbi Eliezer Ish Bar Tuta, and then we'll finish. This rabbi himself, who was a man of good. He was such a giver. Now, obviously, this is on the level of the Talmud, so we're talking about someone who was tremendous, beyond great. He was so good that those that would collect money would eventually run away from him because they were embarrassed. If he would see them, he would give them everything. He was such a giver. Now, by the way, in Judaism, you shouldn't be a mefazer ma'ot. It's bad to be a person that gives away everything because eventually you'll need to take from others. So you shouldn't be too much of a giver. But Rabbi Eliezer's intuition was, he saw someone suffering, he couldn't hold back. He would give everything. But you need something, he would give everything. And people will feel bad to take from him because he was such a giver. So that's the kind of person who felt like everything belongs to God. Someone needs something, he'll give everything. And it also says in the Talmud in Ta'anit that he was buying in the marketplace for his daughter's wedding. And he took some money and he went to buy stuff for his daughter's wedding. And as he's there, he hears of two separate orphans that didn't have money for their own wedding. So he took everything he had, besides for one zuz, which is a very small amount of money, and gave it to them to spend on their wedding. And he said, I'll figure my way out. The Talmud says he took that one zuz, he says he'll invest. And he invested with it into grain, put the grain into his storage house, and a miracle happened, and the storage overflowed with grain, and he had more than enough money to pay for his wedding, and for himself, and for many years ahead. Right. Besides for the story of miracles, the idea is very powerful. Someone who does good should also invest a little bit. Never think that when you do good, you're losing. Take the little bit that you have left and you'll know that you have tremendous blessing with that money. Anyone here made a lot of money gambling? I'm putting my hand up, but I didn't. Okay? So, some people make big money in ways that are not in a way that's earned. Not the most kosher way. And that money doesn't have blessing. There's also Gishmei Bracha, we pray. When we ask for rain, we want rain that gives blessing also. We don't want just rain. You can have rain in the wrong season, and it hurts your crops. You want to have bracha in your money. So that's why it says that when sometimes you can work, and you don't have blessing in the money, sometimes you can work and you have blessing in the money. The blessing in your money can come through tzedakah. It says that it's like putting salt in your food. So you've got food, and you can't put too much salt, but you add some flavoring into your food, and then everything starts tasting good. It says that that's what tzedakah does to your produce. When you give, you're actually flavoring the money that you have as well at the same time. Yes, you were going to ask something.
Okay, so I was supposed to work this couple's wedding. They booked me. I'm a photographer, whatever. They booked me and
A great photographer, by the way.
Thank you, I appreciate you. Paid their deposit, and then like 2 weeks ago, their wedding is September 9th. They're like, hey, someone we know offered to do it for free. We don't want to use you anymore. Can we get our deposit back?
No.
So is my deposit, keeping that money, is that not kosher? Because like I didn't work for it.
That's what a deposit is for.
Look, yeah, that...
Like your job comes with a deposit, you're working for the
Exactly,
deposit.
but should I like feel bad? I feel bad because like
How long after
But you
they
still
booked
plan
you?
stuff.
How long after they booked you?
Donate back to
they booked me like a month ago and they're
Oh, not the
wedding.
wedding.
No,
They're
deposit's
paying
gone.
you for your time, and at the
Deposit's
time you
gone.
could have been
And I
booking
also
another
met them
wedding.
for like,
That's what a deposit's for.
You gave them time, you gave them...
They booked you in advance, you keep your deposit.
What deposit is if they choose it.
What I should give.
Right, that's insurance.
That's
They could be working a different way.
That's the reason. Hey guys, they're a newlywed couple. I think you should
No,
just
they're
give
not
them
married yet.
I get you.
Yeah, just.
Yeah.
What if you guys got married? You guys want?
How much they saved on photography right now?
Yeah.
Look, I'll tell you. Look, I'll say this. No, so
So if somebody would have called you to ask
no, it's a great question. Yes, Ron, what were you saying?
you would have had to turn down work during that time.
I'm gonna email them back. My rabbi said it's okay for me.
Rabbi Jackson Bellow said.
So it says, you don't pay a teacher, right? You don't pay a teacher for teaching you, you pay them for the time they could have been
That's
doing
true.
something else. That's exactly what a deposit is. This is the time that she could have been booked doing something else.
Right.
And being paid for it. So the deposit is insurance for the day and the time.
Then what happens if the deposit's a lot more than than the time that she could have done another job?
That's why you decide your deposit. They agree to it.
Look,
you know?
the word.
Shema, you can give whatever you
Yeah.
want, but essentially,
Give 10% to charity and then keep the rest. Give your miser and then keep the rest. Like they pay it.
I just feel like a bad person because I'm too nice.
When you wrote the deposit, did you sign anything, a contract?
Yeah.
Okay, so there is a rule that dina de malchuta dina, when it comes specifically to money, that the law of the land has an impact. So if the law is that you made a contract and they put a deposit and they gave you that money, then you have the right to take that money 100%, right? It's their requirement to give you the money. That being said, at the end of the day, you didn't do the job. So if you decide to, right, give it back, and I'm not trying to give you guilt or guilt you into this, but if
she didn't cancel the job, there's a difference.
she didn't cancel the job, they canceled it. Yeah, at the end of the day, she's not doing the job. So
Then keep the money.
I have like one.
It's not a question of keeping the money. It's they pay a deposit for a service and they decide not to do it.
You said the deposit's not refundable.
Imagine if I came up to you and I said, Rabbi, this weekend, you know.
I want to come on the Shabbaton.
No, come on. I want to book you.
Imagine.
I want to book you for the Rosh Hashanah. You cancel your $5 million. I'll give you a deposit of 100. You cancel your plans for Shabbaton, and they say, you know what? Never mind. I found somebody else to doing it for free. You don't have to do that. You canceled your other plans. You know, I'm paying you for your time.
What happens if you signed up for my Shabbaton and I cancelled it? I said no, I've got another gig.
That's if you cancel. But if I pay a deposit and then I cancel this, you have to keep my deposit.
But would you ask? No, if I cancel, would you ask for the money back? Would you ask for the money back?
When I actually cancel the deposit, I have to use the deposit. That's what a deposit is. You know?
You are not required to give the money back, and if you do, it's a very righteous thing to do.
Consider it tzedakah.
Yes, you can consider it tzedakah.
You are your own workers, if you don't set them for yourself, no one else.
How much, Brian? $5?
No, tell them no. You already paid your deposit and your photographer.
The same amount.
I think I should just get the money.
What you really should tell them is you already hired a photographer.
Someone that can do your job for free.
That's what you just held up.
Put it this way: the money you make, the money that you have from that deposit is not money that's going to be like bad for you to have. Okay? It's not a bad thing if you keep that money. That's for sure.
Listen to it from another perspective, because I'm an artist. If someone commissions you to do something, they pay a deposit, and that covers materials and the initial amount of time. And they pay for the product. Imagine if they said, hey, I found someone else who could pay, who could do this for free, and I already bought materials, I already started, I already prepped it.
Like this year, you buy materials and start.
She's gonna
Was there
feel,
an opportunity?
Wouldn't you charge just the material, or you charge more?
You charge for your initial time. Like
Okay.
and the product. But she, fortunately,
As if you did the wedding?
but she didn't do the wedding.
Okay,
She
so
still
what?
has to book that time to them.
Sometimes the deposit's a lot more than what's deserved if you do nothing. So you have to also be honest with the money. That's what I'm saying.
It's a larger percentage of the total.
That's why it will be considered as an echshav l'tzedakah. If she does it, it's a bracha for sure. Yeah. Yeah, Andrew. Sorry. What? Oh, it's retained?
Have you heard of the phrase having a lawyer on retainer?
Yeah.
So you don't take any other cases. You're just going to stay paid, not doing any work, waiting in the wings for when I'm ready. You are.
Okay.
Essentially, that's what the deposit is based on.
Okay.
I didn't get on that flight, but sometimes
So don't just like calling this a deposit and saying, we agree to pay your retainer. So the photographer's going to go take it on the
that's a
job.
whole flight ticket.
So that's what he was saying, like basically charging for the time that you could have been somewhere else.
Instead of calling it a deposit, you call it a retainer. It's the same product.
Yeah, but what happens if that retainer is way higher than the value of not doing anything? Like the deposit, well, how much was the deposit? Do you get what I'm saying? Like how much was it? What happens if it's way above?
The price was, they did agree to pay it, did they not?
I don't know. I don't want to know details.
They did agree, that's why a contract was drawn, that's why Federals put the paper.
No, they didn't pay the full price, of course. I don't know.
Right, so then it's not a big case of you're not really working.
No, because you feel like you have to be glued to your phone.
Okay, I'll finish off with a story and we'll call it a day. Brian, this is for you. Are you ready for the story? Okay.
So they had a Mercedes.
So, yeah, it's better than that. It's a well-known story, but it's very powerful. So there was someone that didn't do very well. He had a family and he was desperate for money. And he prayed and prayed for money and he really wanted it. And he wanted to do well in business and it wasn't going well for him. And he went to this great rabbi and he said to him, hey, please give me a blessing. I've tried everything. Give me a blessing that I succeed. I should succeed. And this rabbi was very holy. And he prayed for him. He blessed him. He saw that he really cared about people and he cared about the community. And he said, I bless you that you should do well. And I'll pray for you also. And suddenly the guy came wealthy. He came, it's a true story. He came extremely, extremely wealthy. And then what happened?
He lost it all.
No, he stopped caring about the community. He had a security guard at the front of his new house. No one can come in his door. He didn't feel the need to help anybody. Everybody should go away, leave me alone. And he was locked in his own space and that was it. He became very wealthy and completely disconnected himself from the community. The rabbi blessed him with the intent that he'll be able to help keep doing what he does, which is, being a kind person, helping people. So the rabbi hears that he's not giving any money to anyone, not helping anyone. He decides he himself to go and visit him. He goes to his house and he says, Rabbi, you came to me, come in. Takes him in, brings him into his beautiful home and he sits him down and the rabbi sits there and he says, I want to ask you a question. There's a mirror here on the wall. Can you look at it a second? He says, yes. What do you see? He says, what do you mean, what do I see? I see myself. He says, come, look out the window. Looks out the window and he says, here, what do you see? He says, I see people. I see the streets. I see the whole of, I don't know where, New York. I see the whole place. It's beautiful. He says to him, what's the difference between the mirror and the window? They're both made of glass. What kind of question is this, Rabbi? He says, you don't know how a mirror works? In the back of the mirror, there's a silver lining. It's the same thing. They're both made with glass. But on the back of the mirror, there's a silver lining. And when I'm able to see in the mirror, I really see myself. And the rabbi says, sometimes people are the same person, But when they're filled with a silver lining on the other side, when they start doing well, when they start becoming successful and wealthy, they start only seeing themselves. They stop seeing the world around them. And of course, this man got the hint and went back to his ways of helping the community and being a good person. So that is the message. Ten lo mishelo, give God what belongs to him. You, your talents also, by the way, those are also given to you as a gift so that you can help others as well, not just be there for yourself. Right? Not only money, ten lo mishelo, but don't use your gifts that you have, whether it's money, your health, your wisdom, your success, to be a mirror in your face. Don't use it as a silver lining to be your mirror. Remember that the gifts that you've got are there to see through to the world, not to ignore the world, not to use them against the world. And that's the statement of Rabbi Eliezer ben Ish bar Tuta, the great rabbi who was a man of giving and love, who always saw everything he had as something that belonged to others. Okay, so that's my spiel. I give you a blessing that you should be so successful.
Amen.
In financial ways, but also spiritually and mentally as well, that you're a giver, that you see through the glass, you don't see the silver lining, you see beyond in your success, that people love you and you love them because you remember that all that you have and all that you are is a gift anyway from Hashem, and that's the approach that you should have with your success. Amen. Amen. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you.